Would it have been different if you were under oath?
Senator, all I'm pointing out is the false claims against me.
Okay, I take it you do not want to answer that question. I walked into this hearing this morning concerned that you haven't demonstrated adequate leadership in civilian roles, and this is a dangerous world we're living in here. And America cannot afford a Secretary of Defense who is unprepared for that mission. I'm going to leave with concerns about your transparency. You say you've had personal issues in your past, yet when asked about those very issues, you blame an anonymous smear campaign, even when many of these claims are not anonymous. Which is it? Have you overcome personal issues, or are you the target of a smear campaign? It can't be both.
Pete Hegseth has described the allegations against him as anonymous attacks, the kind of coordinated smear designed to destroy a nomination rather than surface a genuine concern. Senator Mark Kelly did not engage that framing. He did not argue about the motives of unnamed sources or the fairness of the press coverage. He walked in with specific incidents and asked specific questions one at a time, under oath, in front of a room that was watching for the difference between a man who has nothing to hide and one who has prepared an answer for every question except the ones that matter. What followed was not a hearing about politics or confirmation strategy. It was a credibility test administered in public, and the standard was simple: direct questions, direct answers. Watch what Hegseth does when that standard is applied without room to maneuver.
Mr. Hegseth, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your service to this country.
Thank you, Senator.
Few nominees come into this room with all the necessary experience to do this job, to be Secretary of Defense. We get that. It's a reflection on just how big of a job this is. What I want to understand is whether or not you bring any of the necessary experience that this job requires. And here's where I'm concerned. Senator Coleman, in introducing you, and this is a quote, he said, "He has struggled and overcome great personal challenges," unquote. You walk in here saying that you've had personal and character issues in your past, including heavy drinking, which you wrote about. And you said, and this is a quote from you, that you said, "I sit before you as an open book." Yet you haven't actually said what personal challenges it is that you've overcome when you've been asked about them. So I'm going to give you an opportunity here to be as forthright as you say you want to be.
Kelly opens by removing the exit Hegseth has been using since these allegations first surfaced. This is not about anonymous sources. It is not about opposition research or coordinated political timing. Kelly makes that distinction out loud before asking a single question, because the moment he does, Hegseth cannot dismiss what follows as a smear campaign. What remains after that framing is stripped away is a straightforward standard. Anyone asking to lead the Department of Defense is asking for a level of trust that requires a corresponding level of transparency. Kelly is not setting an unfair bar. He is setting the bar the position itself demands, and before he turns to the individual incidents, he gives Hegseth the floor. Address the record directly. That offer is not generosity. It is the setup for everything that follows when the record turns out to be harder to address than it appeared.
So while leading concerned veterans of America, there were very specific cases cited by individuals about your conduct. I'm going to go through a few of them, and I just want you to tell me if these are true or false. Very simple. On Memorial Day 2014, at a CVA event in Virginia, you needed to be carried out of the event for being intoxicated.
The moment Kelly moves from framing to specifics, the hearing shifts in a way the room immediately registers. He is not asking about leadership philosophy or management style or the broad direction of the Defense Department. He is listing incidents, publicly reported, one at a time, with a direct question attached to each one. Hegseth's response is to reject the accusations as false and politically motivated. Kelly does not accept that as an answer because a general denial is not a factual response to a specific allegation. He keeps pressing. And that gap between what Kelly is asking for and what Hegseth is willing to provide becomes the real subject of this exchange, not whether the allegations are true, whether the man nominated to hold one of the most sensitive national security positions in the country is capable of giving the Senate complete and transparent answers when placed under direct questioning. D.
Senator, anonymous smears.
Just true or false? Very simple. Summer of 2014 in Cleveland, drunk in public with the CVA team.
Anonymous smears.
I'm just asking for true or false questions, true or false answers.
This is where the exchange stops being a confirmation hearing and becomes something closer to a deposition. Kelly has removed the political framing entirely. He is not debating whether the sources are credible or whether the timing is suspicious or whether the coverage has been fair. He has narrowed the question to its smallest and most unavoidable form. True or false, that is it. Each incident, one answer required. Hegseth continues to deny wrongdoing and argues the allegations have been shaped and distorted by people with an interest in his failure. Kelly holds the frame, because the issue he is pressing on is not whether Hegseth can explain the politics surrounding these incidents. It is whether the man sitting in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee under oath is giving that committee complete and candid answers. A denial is not the same thing as transparency. A political explanation is not the same thing as a factual one. And the difference between those two things is exactly what a confirmation hearing under oath is designed to expose.
An event in North Carolina, drunk in front of 3 young female staff members after you had instituted a no alcohol policy and then reversed it. True or false?
Anonymous smears.
December of 2014 at the CVA Christmas party at the Grand Hyatt at Washington, D.C., you were noticeably intoxicated and had to be carried up to your room. Is that true or false?
Anonymous smears.
Another time, a CVA staffer stated that you passed out in the back of a party bus. Is that true or false?
Anonymous smears.
In 2014, while in Louisiana on official business for CVA, did you take your staff, including young female staff members, to a strip club?
Absolutely not. Anonymous smears.
So, is it accurate that the organization reached a financial settlement with a female staffer who claimed to be at a strip club with you, and there was a colleague who attempted to sexually assault her? Was there a financial settlement?
Senator, I was not involved in that. I don't know the nature of how that played out.
But you understand there was a financial settlement for a young female staffer who accused another member of the organization, not you, of sexual assault in a strip club.
We have multiple statements on the record referring to that.
But you claim you were not there when that occurred.
Absolutely not.
Now, the behavior I cited, if true, do you think that this behavior of intoxication, going into these type of establishments, women on your staff being so uncomfortable that they have to file these sort of harassment claims, do you think this is appropriate behavior for a leader?
Senator, the overwhelming majority of anyone who's worked for me, including the on-the-record statements that have been submitted to this, with their name on it, on the record, men and women who worked with me every day, are the overwhelming preponderance of evidence that testify to my leadership and professionalism in leading Vets for Freedom and Concerned Veterans for America. My
Okay.
leadership has been completely impugned on these veterans organizations that did fantastic work.
Mr.
on behalf
Hegseth,
of the
I'm not
men
even
and
going to
women
go
fighting
into the,
overseas
I'm not even
and
going to go into
advocating,
the
and we managed our
accusations.
financial books with integrity across the board. How many people, everybody who runs a campaign.
I have limited time. I'm not going to get into the accusations that come from Fox News. I know you have some of your Fox News colleagues here. There were multiple instances of accusations against you about drinking on the job.
All
coming
anonymous,
in.
all false, all refuted by my colleagues who I worked with for 10 years at 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and everything
The
in
challenge
between,
here for me,
and
Mr.
said
Hegseth,
they've only seen me be
is
professional
when there is
every
discussion
single time.
about personal challenges, and you admittedly had issues with heavy drinking. It's hard to kind of square this, to square the circle here. It's kind of a difficult thing to do. Let me ask you, if I have about 90 seconds left here, if you had to answer these questions about sexual assault against you and your drinking and your personal conduct,
Kelly
would it
now
have been
opens a
different
question that lands differently
if you were
than
under oath?
everything that came before it. He is not asking about an incident. He is asking about the oath itself. Would Hegseth have answered these same questions differently in a different setting, one outside the formal confirmation process, outside the Senate chamber, outside the specific weight that being under oath is supposed to carry? It is not a rhetorical device. It is a direct challenge to whether the testimony the committee is receiving right now reflects the full and complete truth or a version of it shaped by preparation and stakes. Hegseth maintains the allegations are false. Kelly does not move from the standard. Transparency is not a condition that applies only when the political cost of evasion is high enough. For a Secretary of Defense, it is the baseline. The committee's responsibility is not to weigh competing political narratives. It is to evaluate whether the person seeking confirmation to one of the most consequential national security positions in the country is giving the Senate accurate and complete answers. That evaluation does not change based on how the nominee characterizes his accusers.
Senator, all I'm pointing out is the false claims against me.
Okay, I take it you do not want to answer that question. I walked into this hearing this morning concerned that you haven't demonstrated adequate leadership in civilian roles. And this is a dangerous world we're living in here. And America cannot afford a Secretary of Defense who is unprepared for that mission. I'm going to leave with concerns about your transparency. You say you've had personal issues in your past, yet when asked about those very issues, you blame an anonymous smear campaign, even when many of these claims are not anonymous. Which is it? Have you overcome personal issues, or are you the target of a smear campaign? It can't be both. It's clear to me that you're not being honest with us or the American people because you know the truth would disqualify you from getting the job.
Kelly now lifts the argument out of the individual incidents entirely and places it where it has been pointing since he asked his first question: transparency, not as a political value or a talking point, as the operational minimum required for the Senate to do what it is constitutionally obligated to do. A committee cannot evaluate a nominee it cannot get straight answers from. That is not a partisan position, it is a procedural one. And Kelly's argument is that broad denials attached to politically motivated framing are not straight answers. They are a substitute for them. Hegseth holds his position. The allegations have been misrepresented. The motivations behind them are clear. The committee is left holding two accounts that cannot both be fully accurate at the same time. One says the nominee has been forthcoming. The other says the questions that most directly test that claim have not received the kind of direct, complete, verifiable responses that a nomination to lead the Defense Department requires. The committee will have to decide which account the evidence supports. That decision is the hearing.
And just as concerning as each of these specific disqualifying accusations are, what concerns me just as much is the idea of having a Secretary of Defense who is not transparent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my 2 seconds.
By the time Kelly finished his questioning, he had reduced the entire hearing to the one thing that cannot be argued around with political framing or allegations of coordinated smears: trust. Not as an abstract virtue, but as the specific operational requirement for leading an institution that asks men and women to follow orders into situations where the cost of getting it wrong is measured in lives. Throughout the exchange, Kelly pressed on a simple standard: the Senate cannot evaluate what it cannot get straight answers about. Hegseth rejected every allegation as false and politically motivated and maintained that the record against him has been shaped by people with an interest in his failure. Kelly's closing position was just as simple as his opening one. Several of the questions he asked did not receive direct answers. That is not a political conclusion. It is an observation about what the transcript shows. The broader question the hearing leaves behind does not belong to Kelly or Hegseth. It belongs to the confirmation process itself. When a nominee seeks to lead the Department of Defense, past conduct and credibility under direct questioning are not separate from the job. They are part of the qualification. The Senate's vote is the public's answer to whether that standard was met.